It's my pleasure to call the 58th annual meeting of Brattleboro Housing Partnerships to order. Little did any of us think last year, as we joined together in person at the community room at Red Clover Commons, how the year 2020 would change things for each of us. Then we were welcoming Christine Hazzard as the incoming executive director, and Chris Hart's transformation into grandmother and part-time development director of Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. Now we are virtual and together, though we are physically separate. Our theme for this meeting is gratitude for our residents, community, and staff. You will hear more about this later in the meeting. Now, I want to focus on the leadership we have so much benefited from this year. Quoting from Brattleboro Housing Partnerships application for the MTW program, the leadership of BHP is well known for its ability to lead change by focusing on opportunities from planned and unexpected events. There's more in the application, but I want to note our executive director, Christine Hazzard, has risen to this year's challenges of unexpected events with grace and calm. On the arrival of COVID-19, requiring isolation for our residents, Christine initiated daily phone contact. Welcome to, right? We have some lively dogs. Christine arranged for staff to work from home, limiting the number of people in the office. And she recruited additional help for the maintenance department to vigorously disinfect all our properties. At the same time, Christine and Chris continued developing Red Clover 2 to house the final Melrose Terrace residents. Now, with the year more than half over, Christine got a notice in August that BHP was in the lottery to apply to Housing and Urban Development, to HUD, for a program that increases our flexibility in applying HUD's very prescriptive guidelines. This is the MTW, or Moving to Work program. Without the close collaboration that Christine and Chris developed over the years, we never could have met the December application deadline. I want to add special gratitude to the housing commissioners who serve on our 5-member Board of Commissioners. Our Vice Chair, Donna Rathbun, who recently was honored as her bank's compliance officer. Commissioner Tom Murray, who brings the sensibility of both landlord and tenant to the board. Commissioner Liz Harrison, a nutritional consultant who shares concerns about safe and healthy living for our residents. And our newest commissioner, Byron Stuckey, long known in Brattleboro for his concern about housing in this community. They bring important, thoughtful questions and observations to our monthly meetings, which are available on BCTV. I invite you to search out the broadcasts and learn both what we do and how you might volunteer to serve when members complete their terms and/or retire. It's exciting and rewarding to be part of this dynamic and important service to the town of Brattleboro. And now I turn this meeting over to Executive Director Christine Hazzard. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I'm very excited to announce that we have presentations from several of our Brattleboro Housing Partnerships members. They may be muted, so just remember to unmute yourself as we present. And Lorelei Morissette has created a PowerPoint presentation for people to be able to look at while we're presenting. So, so we will begin. Here's just a picture of some of us either working from home in our workstations or, and just all of us wearing masks, which we have gotten very comfortable doing, especially if we're in the office. Everybody is mandated to wear masks, and we always wear masks on our properties as well. But this is just a little collage of sort of where we have sometimes and where we have ended up during COVID when we haven't been able to utilize the office space.
Okay.
And so we'll start with Jen Short. Jen was a hero for us. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, we're going to start with Jeannie McPherson, also a hero. Jeannie is going to start with our presentation to talk a little bit about the administrative COVID response. Take it away, Jeannie. Oh, Jeannie, you're muted. You just got to unmute yourself.
How's that?
Perfect. Thanks.
I wrote a little thing about how COVID-19 changed my life at work. It was a big adjustment for my position at BHP. The hardest thing for me was training myself to wear a mask. But after buying many different masks, I can now wear them comfortably. Then transitioning to working at home had many challenges, as with my position, I had never worked from home. I never had needed a cell phone for work purposes, so one was ordered for me to use at home. Where I live, cell service is very bad, so that didn't work. So then I needed to get internet at home, which my son helped me with. The main office phone was then taken home to try it and get the calls to go through internet. It did not work as far as power, so I had to get a power cord to make the phone to work. After the power cord came, I was able to hook up and use the phone at home. That was different for sure, sitting at my home table answering the phone. Then I was issued a laptop to modem into my computer at work, and I had never done that either, but was easy to learn. A few times I'm logging off the wrong window, as one was your monitor at Melrose and was your monitor at home, and many calls to Jen to restart my computer. I finally got it. Then with all that set up, I was done learning, as I had more items, was not done learning because I had more items to learn. First was determined what was an emergency work order and what was able to be set aside, and explained to the tenants what we were doing at this time. Most of the tenants were very understanding. Before, I used to just be able to put the work order in the system and knew what emergency work orders was and wasn't, and just let them go to the tablets and never had to deal with them. Communication with coworkers had changed, as before I could call or go speak to them. Emails turned into the most important piece of communication. I actually monitor the BHP main email, and with all the changes that I had then determined which ones go to who, I then had to learn to be more patient with how long I got a response from email. Phone calls were instant response, not emails. Also, everyone's job had gotten much busier. I was able to do my application process still from home, but still needed to print letters. So I printed and sent to office and asked Jen to mail. After a while, I got a home printer for home and mailed them myself. I was only coming in once or twice a week at that time, so I could pick up materials and supplies to be at home. When I was asked to help out with the wellness and service group to call the tenants and make sure they all had all the necessary items and food to stay safe. Lorelei would divide the tenants up among a few of us, and every 2 weeks I would call mine. It was nice to talk to the ones I had never had before, and made me feel good to be able to lead them in the right direction to get whatever they needed. We tracked many things and would turn their sheets in to Lorelei at the end of the week. I was then able to come in the office a few days a week and had to change from front desk to another office with closed doors to keep safe distance from others. It is okay, but missed interaction with coworkers, as that has to be minimal time to keep safe. One thing I learned working at BHP for 25 years is that I needed to accept change, and COVID-19 came. It came in handy when COVID-19 came. That's it.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Great. Thank you. It's a great perspective. And next we have a report from property managers in terms of the COVID response. And this was written by Courtney D'Onofrio and Jen Short. And Jen will be presenting. Thank you so much, Jen. And a special note, Jen was our hero during COVID. She was the one person who was in the office all the time. As you know, we never closed. And so Jen was here to do all the things that we needed administrative wise, everything from picking up the mail to printing, lots of things outside her job. So Jen really, really helped us out. Thanks, Jen. So I'll let you begin.
All right. So the pandemic what was that? The pandemic affected property management as it did so many other departments. The property management team was forced to change the ways they conducted daily business. They quickly identified what work was in process and how they could meet the needs of those we serve each day. Courtney was tasked to oversee the office operations by designating tasks and creating a schedule for administrative staff, which includes administration for other staff and ensuring office staff have all necessary tools to complete the essential work at home. This was also identifying which staff would be essential and needing to go into the office. Courtney from home with Jen's support from the office needed documents were scanned by Jen so income changes and recertifications could still be completed. When we were able to allow additional staff into the office, Courtney kept track of the office schedule, allowing only so many staff to be present in the space at one time. The assistant property manager, Jen, took the lead to support staff that was working at home by ensuring their ability to remote log in, as well as addressing all the mail by gathering it, scanning documents to the appropriate staff, sending out mailings for staff, and handling a multitude of other tasks requested by staff that could only be handled in the office or needed additional assistance. This caused Jen to balance tasks that she needed to complete while becoming more supportive for the entire staff that worked from home. The property management team continued to process applications for vacant apartments, but had to make adjustments to the way things were done. They came up with a system in order to still get the day-to-day duties completed. They were not moving in new residents to buildings that had a shared common space, such as Samuel Eliot, A.W. Richard, and Red Clover. However, the focus was to be on filling units with separate entrances, such as Ledgewood, Moore Court, and Melrose Terrace. Apartment inspections had to be temporarily suspended until it could be done safely. The team created a procedure around annual inspections to continue with the process. Tax credit recertifications still needed to be completed and signed by the residents, so they came up with a plan to send each resident their form with a return prepaid envelope to be easily returned. Complaints and resident concerns were still attended to by Jen, scanning and emailing them so that the letters and phone calls could still be handled. They had to come up with a procedure on how to conduct interviews with applicants and how to do in-person lease-ups. The team created a space to do lease-ups. They relied on residents to complete their own annual recertification paperwork because meetings were just not possible. A procedure was created to address life safety items that must be completed yearly, such as sprinkler and fire alarm testing. Creating all these new processes took a lot of time and thinking beyond their normal realms of how things would regularly be handled. The property management team found ways to not only address their duties, but were a vital part of the team with the rest of the BHP staff.
Great. Thank you so much, Jen. And so true. You guys were absolutely vital. Thank you so much for your creativity and your hard work. Next, we'll have David DeAngelis, our Section 8 Voucher and Grants Manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think to preface my little presentation is a great line from a song back in the 60s that I think stated what a long, strange trip it's been. So again, to preface my statements here, that we were asked to present to Christine some information about how COVID changed our jobs. So to share with you all, due to the inability of having person-to-person contact was the most challenging event for me. You know much more about a person when you personally interact with them, and not being able to have that contact was difficult with both my BHP peers, my housing program participants, and our community landlords. Regularly scheduled meetings with community partners all came to a halt as well, and we went Zoom as we are today, which too was a big adjustment. Working from home has been another area of adaptation. Not all the tools needed to do my job could be transferred to home, so luckily I'd had some limited office time each week that's allowed me to backfill those tasks I couldn't do here. As the Section 8 administrator, it certainly was a great relief that HUD actually had modified many of the required parts of the program with statutory and regulatory waivers due to the pandemic, as did our special Shelter Plus Care program. Had these waivers not been implemented, the job would have been nearly impossible to do remotely. Another statement was, how did our outside partners help in this process as well? And all community partners that I work with have been very understanding of our programmatic limitations as I have with theirs. Our tasks still get accomplished, but it takes a greater effort to get to the sum of the parts and takes a little longer time to complete. What I'm most proud of about our response to COVID is our entire staff's ability to adapt to a situation for which we have no idea when it will end, that all staff continue to provide the quality of services that we're known for. What did we learn? Well, all BHP staff have experienced adapting to events beyond their control, such as fires, floods, explosions, tenants' unexpected passings, personal hardships, and each staff being somewhat conditioned to expect the unexpected. I believe what was learned was, okay, here's another one. We'll step up as we always have, do whatever it takes, and be hoping it'll end soon, eventually getting through it and being stronger when it's over. Then wonder what and when, what the next event will be.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you. I think you said it very eloquently. Thank you. Next, we have Lorelei Morissette. Lorelei is our Wellness and Services Support Manager. Lorelei began in this position. Lorelei has been with BHP for many years, but she began in this position in the new year. And so this was a fresh position for Lorelei, so a big challenge. Take it away, Lorelei.
In March, we found ourselves in a very unpredictable time. I had just been appointed to the role of the Resident Wellness and Services Manager. I went from overseeing the Wellness and Services Group, which consisted of the property management team, and the services group to lead them in a new direction. We were given the task of figuring out how to manage a system to support and maintain communication with all BHP residents and agencies in matters that related to personal needs and services. During this task, we were separated but working as a team as we were getting our own bearings and setting up home offices. The group immediately stepped up to figure out how to best support the residents. We started making calls to each of our residents on a daily basis to make sure they were connected to the resources they needed. This also gave them someone that they could reach out to directly if they needed assistance. The calls were consisting of not only resources, but social connections, averaging about 300. You can see on the screen that we have a graph of some of the things that we dealt with. Being connected when everyone is so disconnected from outside world was so important for everyone's mental well-being. We found this was not only helpful for the residents, but ourselves as well. There was so much need that we brought in others to help keep up the pace. Our administrative person, Jeannie, joined the wellness team, stepping out of her familiar role at the front desk to help support the residents. We also hired a temporary part-time person, Amy, to join the team as we had more calls to make than the team could cover. While we were making these calls, we were making connections with outside agencies to help support the needs. We continued connections we already had, such as Brattleboro Fire Department, Wyndham Southeast Supervisory Union, Senior Solutions, the Hunger Council, United Way, and many more. We also made new connections with places like Brattleboro Area Mutual Aid that was able to deliver items to our residents that had no other means of getting supplies. We relied on local business that offered delivery and curbside services and shared those resources. We researched other ways outside of our traditional means, like the Instacart app. This whole process had the group thinking outside the box to be the best support we could be. I am so proud of how the team came together to help our residents stay safe and how that was the first concern. We learned that though we might not be visible, we can still be there to support each other in a time of need. I feel very fortunate to work with such an amazing group.
Thank you so much, Lorelei. That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing the graphs as well to really show how many calls and how many people were actually, how many people you actually interacted with during this. Thank you. Next, we will also have someone else from the support and services team, Shauna Ba, who is our SASH implementation manager. Again, Shauna had been with the organization for several years, but she started this new role January 1st, 2020. Shauna, take it away.
All right, thank you. On January 1st, as Christine said, I began the new role at BHP as a SASH implementation manager, overseeing the SASH program in Wyndham and Windsor counties, while continuing my role as a SASH coordinator. SASH has gone through many changes since the COVID pandemic began. The first few days of March hit us with office closings, organizing phone trees for daily check-ins with residents, and creating spreadsheets for documentation. All SASH programming was canceled, and we spent months working from home. Monthly SASH team meetings and monthly drill meetings turned into weekly meetings that were done over the phone. We also had weekly COVID updates every Monday at noon with the SASH admin team at Cathedral Square, which are still ongoing. The focus changed to establishing a COVID-19 SASH individualized service plan for each SASH participant in case of an emergency. With this plan, we were able to get a clear picture as to each SASH participant's needs so we could best assist them. All the yearly SASH assessments were now being done over the phone and releases signed by the SASH coordinator with verbal permission of the participant. The SASH program was pushed to a new level when one of the SASH coordinators had personal and work struggles, ultimately leading to her no longer working at BHP. Both myself and Jenna, the wellness nurse, had the additional work of having to take on a second SASH panel while beginning a search for a new SASH coordinator. SASH staff from other panels in our DRO stepped up to help. The wellness nurse, Kathy Schuster from Valley Cares, spent about a month assisting us with assessments and catching us up on some of our yearly releases. Jessie Cudworth, who is a SASH coordinator at Valley Cares, helped us with food delivery in collaboration with SASH and the Vermont Food Bank. Students from the high school in Brattleboro also spent some of their summer days with the Vermont Food Bank, also delivering food boxes door to door, while also giving them community service hours. SASH is very grateful to all of those who have lent a hand to ease the burdens we have faced. and bring food to our participants in need. Before returning to the offices and seeing participants, all staff needed to complete and comply with required VOSHA training. A SASH re-entry plan needed to be written and approved of as well. This plan outlined the steps SASH staff would take to protect themselves and the participants following 4 phases. Phase 1 is remote work with in-person visit exceptions. Phase 2 is flexible worksite options. Phase 3 is working on site. And phase 4 is in-home visits and group programs. And we still are not doing any of the group programming at this point. Face-to-face meetings began to take place outside in August while maintaining physical distancing. Following the re-entry plan, SASH staff have met with participants inside their apartments, following the same guidelines when the person has a high need in regards to mental health, decline in physical health, increased falls, or with assistance for telehealth appointments. Beginning in November of this year, the re-entry plan was updated to reflect the change of seasons. Outside meetings will now take place in community rooms at SASH sites or inside individual apartments as needed. If there is an active COVID case at one of our properties, SASH staff will fall back to phase 1 for 2 weeks and then make changes and go back into the other phases as things move along and the cases are no longer at our sites. Our SASH wellness nurse, Jenna, has been an invaluable part of the SASH team since COVID-19 has hit. Jenna has educated the staff in the proper use of PPE, hand washing, and has guided us all throughout the pandemic with COVID updates and protocols. Jenna has worked countless additional hours to support staff and participants. During all of this, Jenna was in touch with Brattleboro Memorial Hospital to schedule herself and myself, excuse me, a N95 mask fitting to ensure proper fit and safety. Jenna's connection with the community and our partner agencies has grown immensely and is a huge asset to the SASH program. In the beginning of November, the foot clinic with Dr. Lebo returned to Red Clover Commons. Before this happened, a safe program plan had to be developed, which included COVID screenings, having hand sanitizer available and masks, and a safe area to physically distance while waiting their turn. The clinic was held indoors in the community room on the 3rd floor. The SASH wellness nurse was at the clinic to take temperatures and COVID screenings prior to residents entering the clinic. Our neighbor at Melrose Terrace, Shelley Sparks, was kind enough to serenade our residents at Melrose Terrace with her beautiful flute music. Several times she was out there playing music for the residents. So a big thank you to her for uplifting all of us during these hard times. Looking ahead, on November 20th, SASH and the VNH have collaborated to bring all the Brattleboro housing participants the opportunity to get their flu shot. A drive-through flu clinic will take place at Hayes Court this Friday from 9 to 3, which is also available to staff and anyone in the public in Brattleboro. The flu shots are free and available to anyone who is 19 years of age or older. And as winter approaches, the COVID cases rise, we feel confident in our preparations that SASH will continue to meet the needs of our participants in the best, safest way possible.
Thank you so much, Shauna.
You're welcome.
Great report. And those are great pictures of you and Jenna Ross, our wellness nurse for the SASH program. Next, we have our very creative Lucy Tell, who has offered to write a poem and read a poem. Lucy is our family self-sufficiency coordinator, and this is her poem titled "The COVID Calls." And just make sure you're unmuted, Lucy. Oh. Yep, you're still muted. Just at the bottom of your screen.
Yep. How's that? Is that better?
Thank you.
So when asked to, write something about my response to COVID, I wrote a poem, which is how I respond to most everything. So the COVID calls began in March 2020. Ma Bell would have been so proud as to how we reached out to touch someone and started with an introduction. Hi, it's Lucy Tell. I work for Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. We are calling all the residents to see how they are doing, to check if they need anything. Then the list of questions. Do you have a neighbor, family, or friends for support? How are you with food supply for you or your pet? How's your medication supply? Are you experiencing any symptoms? Have you been in contact with anyone experiencing symptoms? Do you have any upcoming medical appointments? Do you have enough household supplies? Then the replies. I am doing well. Thanks for checking in. No, you don't need to call me. I will call you. I'm good. Could use some cat food and TP. I'm hanging in there, but feeling a little under the weather. Mailbox full. Couldn't leave a message. So appreciative of what you do. How's your family? How are you? I'm good. Call next week. And then becoming better acquainted as the check-ins become familiar and expected. And finally becoming friends. Hey, it's Lucy. We talked last week. How you doing? Do you have enough foods, meds? Are you getting out? Call me if you need anything. And some would, just to let me know they were okay. Then my notes. We chatted, liked the check-ins, don't need to call. Call next week. Is good, no complaints. Need potatoes and onions. The COVID calls ended without a chance to hang up or say goodbye. I worry that some are still waiting. Hi, it's Lucy from Housing. How you doing? I'm just calling to check in.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Lucy. That's great. Thank you very much. So next we're going to do a little bit of an acknowledgement and some gratitude for our maintenance team. Our maintenance team worked tirelessly through COVID without stop. And I'm just so eternally grateful to them. And so I've asked Jack Mahoney, the portfolio manager, to say a few words about the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships maintenance team.
Good afternoon. I apologize in advance. I've got some seasonal allergies, so if I clear my throat a little bit or sound raspy, that's why. So almost 9 months ago, the management team at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships began examining our response to the global pandemic. We scoured Amazon for hand sanitizer, gloves, and masks. We contacted anyone we thought could provide us with personal protective equipment. Procedures were drafted, issued, redrafted, reissued. The main question was, how do we protect ourselves and our staff while still maintaining vital services? It became increasingly clear that most of our team did not need to be on site physically and should work from home. But what about the maintenance staff? How do we protect them? Through all of the planning by management, the maintenance team continued with their duties, responding to changes in procedures and protocols, waiting to hear what we have decided as to how they will respond to maintenance requests and how and to what extent we were going to protect them while we were all at home and they remained at the ready. There was justifiable nervousness and anxiety combined with pressure from home to be safe. And yet, our maintenance team came in and performed their duties. They adjusted to being separated from teammates. They responded to emergencies while reusing and rotating the limited number of normally disposable masks, while we all heard conflicting and ever-evolving information regarding the means of transmission, and we tracked the number of COVID cases in Vermont, New England, and across the country. On a daily basis, maintenance techs, in all likelihood, see and interact with more residents in their assigned communities than any of us. And that relationship was all but severed. Another difficult aspect of the change in operations that could easily be overlooked when assessing the resilience of the maintenance team was their inability to maintain their properties in areas of responsibility to the levels in which both they and the residents were accustomed. Each staff member has an assigned community or communities, and there is an element of pride in the maintenance and upkeep that was suddenly interrupted when, in the interest of safety, they were told to respond only to emergencies in apartments and stay out of interior common areas. When a large part of what you are responsible for involves aesthetics, planning and upkeep of the physical operation of equipment and systems, it is, as maintenance tech Tony Ingram stated, very hard not interacting with residents, but also watching things pile up. Through it all, the uncertainty, the anxiety, the isolation, and the disruption of the basic and essential aspects of their job, their, quote, hierarchy of needs, the BHP maintenance staff remained on the job and ready to ensure the safety and comfort of our residents as our own front line. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. And thank you so much to our maintenance team. I think several of them may be on the call. So I just wanted to say a special thank you, but I will make sure that they get this recording and watch it. I know many of them are very busy and did not want to take the time out of work, but I appreciate them tremendously. And I think that we all share that with them on a regular basis. They have done an amazing job and I'm so grateful for them. So thanks again, Jack. So next, I would like to acknowledge another staff member. This is a special acknowledgement, and this is a little bit of a surprise for Miss Jeannie McPherson. I hope she hasn't gotten up. So this is an acknowledgement of Jeannie. Jeannie has been a Brattleboro Housing Partnership staff member for 25 years. And so I found the absolute cutest picture I could find of Jeannie, which she unbeknownstly sent me for Mother's Day. So I'm just going to say a few words about Jeannie. So I first met Jeannie McPherson when I came to work at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships 8 years ago. And I knew within a few days on the job that Jeannie was an integral part of the organization. In first speaking with her, I observed that she seemed like someone who had seen it all, including many new employees walk in and out the door. In preparing for today, I asked the former executive director, Chris Hart, to share a little bit about Jeannie as well. She informed me that in 1995, Jeannie McPherson was hired as a part-time support person for the then Section 8 administrator. Chris shared that Jeannie was pretty nervous the first few weeks. Unfortunately, the former Section 8 administrator had a habit of raising her voice when she thought you didn't understand or hear her, which made Jeannie think that she was being yelled at for something. It all got worked out and Jeannie fit into the position very well. She would go on to perform various jobs at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships and do well at all of them. A great moment Jeannie and the previous executive director had was when the administrative staff was very thin. At the time, there were no property managers, just the Section 8 administrator and the maintenance team. For administrative staff, there was only the executive director, Jeannie, and the front desk person. One Monday morning, Jeannie and Chris walked in to find the front desk person had quit. Her keys and letter were on the desk. Jeannie and Chris looked at each other in disbelief. Jeannie said, "Well, I guess it's just you and me now." They made it through that and many other misadventures at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. Jeannie took it all in stride. One thing I know for sure is that Jeannie has always been a very loyal and supportive employee. Jeannie is so loyal that she will drop whatever she is doing to help, which we all try hard not to take advantage of. Last week, I challenged Jeannie to speak at today's meeting, but gave her an easy out and said she definitely did not have to do it. When I checked back in, she said, "Yeah, I'll do it. You challenged me, so I'll try." Jeannie cares deeply about relationships, especially with staff and residents at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, and is always the first to say how much she will miss an employee when they leave. She also takes it extremely hard when one of our residents pass away. Jeannie has really seen it all, from the good to the not so good to the tragic. Jeannie has kept walking back into that office every day. She originally thought she'd be working at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships only a short time, and here it is, a short quarter of a century later. On behalf of all of Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, thank you, Jeannie, for your dedication, acceptance of challenges, perseverance, and for your hard work over the past 25 years. And I have a little present for Jeannie, which I'm going to have to give her after this meeting because we are in separate offices. But I just wanted to say thank you again. And Jeannie, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are you surprised?
Yes, it brought tears to my eyes.
Well, I knew if I didn't surprise you, you might not show up. So I had to say, please forgive me.
Nice picture, though.
Yeah. And thank you so much for Chris Hart. She shared some great stories and helped me to make this speech all the better. So thank you.
Chris.
I think this is applause.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to my remarks for the year for the 2020 accomplishments. And so I just wanted to say the theme of this is about gratitude. So when I became the executive director on January 1st, I felt incredibly honored, excited, and nervous. I knew that there would be many challenges and that I would learn an incredible amount. However, 2020 has been a remarkable year, and Brattleboro Housing Partnerships has faced remarkable challenges. Early in the year, the staff began several large undertakings. This included preparations for Red Clover Commons 2, reorganizing our financial department to better meet the needs of our organization. The maintenance department examined more efficient ways to complete turnovers, which were essential under the new rental assistance demonstration program. The Wellness and Supportive Services team, led by new manager Lorelei Morissette, focused on resident engagement and strategies to better improve communication between residents and staff. And the entire organization began the large task of working on personal and professional goals as we assessed organizational values. I firmly believed in January that this was plenty to tackle in 1 year. These were large undertakings, and by late February, we were well on our way. Early in the year, staff members collaborated with residents to update 2 large community room spaces in Samuel Elliott Apartments and at Hayes Court. Residents voted on the color of the walls, and their request to get rid of old carpeting and have new flooring installed became a reality. We were so excited to have these updated community spaces to host meetings and offer programs. But 2020, full of surprises, had other plans. In early March, we needed to close our beloved community spaces and begin to implement an emergency plan that we never dreamed we would need. During the first year of March, our staff began the enormous undertaking of keeping our properties, staff, and residents safe at a time when new information was emerging hourly. The Brattleboro Housing Partnership staff was up for the challenge. The small yet mighty staff broke up to focus on 3 main areas: safety for residents, employees, and properties, keeping the administration departments going, and continuing to meet our resident needs. Each group focused on these different areas of organization, and I am proud to say that we kept operations going without interruption. Our organization, while doing business differently, never stopped doing business. Several staff members saw themselves in new roles with new duties, and I never once heard a complaint. Our maintenance staff continued operations creatively by focusing on emergency work orders and spending more time on projects that could be completed without risk, and they did lots and lots of disinfecting. Our support and services staff took on the enormous undertaking of calling residents to identify needs and support those in isolation for several months. Our property management team continued administrative operations, and most notably, Jen Short kept the office running for everyone when she was the only one allowed to come into the office. Staff created workspaces at home and worked tirelessly while also helping their kids with remote learning and managing huge amounts of stress. Again, I never heard a complaint. When I asked staff to reflect on the past year at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, these are the words I received: frustrating, professional, team, can-do attitude, challenging, supportive, accomplished, teamwork, overwhelming changes, stronger, positive relationships, and trust. It wasn't easy, but luckily we did not feel alone. Our residents reached out often to express thanks. The Vermont Department of Health and the town of Brattleboro, specifically the Brattleboro Fire Department, supported and advised Brattleboro Housing Partnerships throughout the hardest months. SASH, the Wyndham Southeast Supervisory District, the Vermont Food Bank, Groundworks and Foodworks, Brattleboro Memorial Hospital, the Summer Meals Program, Brattleboro Mutual Aid, the Brattleboro Retreat, Grace Cottage, Everyone Eats, and many, many, many organizations supported our residents. Executive directors from around the state and HUD officials met with me often to make sure I felt supported. For all the support, I am incredibly grateful. And remarkably, Brattleboro Housing Partnerships also accomplished many things in 2020. We finished streamlining our financial department. We brought in a new maintenance leader. We received funding and began construction on a new building, which is set to be completed in the summer of 2021. We are in the process of demolition of the remainder of buildings along the floodplain at Melrose Terrace and have begun planning for the relocation of Melrose Terrace residents. We are close to completing the large and detailed application process to become the first moving to work agency in Vermont. These are no small feats for a normal year. These are tremendous accomplishments for 2020. This would not have been possible without an amazing staff and supportive board of commissioners. Lastly, I really would like to recognize our residents. This year has been incredibly hard for them, and they have made huge sacrifices for themselves, neighbors, and their communities to keep them safe. This summer, a resident called Brattleboro Housing Partnerships to let us know that they and several family members tested positive for COVID. They wanted us to know because they wanted neighbors to get tested as well. They were worried that people might be angry or scared, and it may stigmatize their community. But they said they knew it was the right thing to do, to notify residents and staff so that they could get tested and potentially stop the spread of the virus. This resident put other safety first during an incredibly difficult time in their own life. During this difficult time, and we still have a lot of work ahead of us, this reminds me that ultimately we can do anything when we do it together. Thank you. From there, oh, now I will let Janet take over. Thanks, Janet.
All right. I was about to say, you muted yourself, so I didn't hear those last words. The last part of this particular agenda is resident and/or community members' comments. If anyone who is attending our annual meeting want to comment, I'm certainly open for that. Lorelei.
I think Lorelei was just changing the screen.
Oh, okay. So we are going to have a short formal meeting of the commissioners, but I just want to invite anybody attending the annual meeting to feel free to comment. I kind of flubbed in saying that I really appreciated Christine Hazzard's calm and competence in managing all of this. I want to say again, your calmness helped everybody know that they could do what they needed to do. It really made such a difference.
Thank you.
So,
Catherine Cummings, and I work with the community health team at Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. I just want to say that I really appreciate the collaboration with Sash. I've missed Christine a little, but Shauna and Jenna have been great to work with, and I speak with them every week, and they're very helpful. And you're doing a great job. Thanks so much for doing all your hard work in this community.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Any other comments? I think then I will officially close that portion of the annual meeting and invite the commissioners to have a short formal meeting. Okay. I call the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for Brattleboro Housing Partnership to order. First order of business is the election of officers, and I'm going to ask Christine Hazzard to chair this portion of the meeting.
So this is, this is our opportunity to elect officers for 2020. And so so currently our officers are Janet Cramer is our board chair, and Donna Rathbun is our vice chair, and I am the secretary. And so I would like to ask if there's any nominations for the chair.
Christine, I would nominate that Janet continue. She does a great job in this role, and we really benefit by having her.
Thank you. And so I think now we vote on this. I apologize. So Janet, so can I get a vote from the Board of Commissioners? Can I get a second to the nomination for Janet from one of the Board of Commissioners? I see Liz.
Yep.
Thank you, Liz. And can I get a vote from the board, please?
Hands up.
In favor?
Aye,
Favor?
in favor.
Is Tom present?
I don't see anyone else on the phone, so I'm not sure.
And
If
Byron?
not, I can do it via email if we,
Okay.
I don't know if Byron is on either.
Well, if we have three, we do have a quorum. Go ahead. I'd like to nominate Donna Rathbun for vice chair.
I second.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Great. And then for secretary.
And for, I think
Christine.
applause says how much we appreciate all of the work that you're doing.
I accept. May I have, is all in favor?
All in favor.
Aye.
Thanks. Wonderful.
Board
Great.
packet review. Actually, what we can do is to accept the minutes of October 26th, which are in your packet.
Can I get
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The general update in the pink. And I'm going reasonably quickly, but if there are any questions.
Tom did have a question prior to the meeting, and that was just about that some of the percentages, if you add them together, would be over 100%. And and in looking at it, I confirmed that that is true, and that is because some of the properties had back rent.
Ah.
Does that make sense, Courtney?
Yes, that makes sense, Christine. And if there is overage paid on an account, kind of helps kind of offset that.
Great, thank you.
I have a question about the waiting list, and they're like Red Clover, they're only sending you all 10 at a time. Are there hundreds on that list so that you're only getting 10 at a time? That seems, I don't know what the situation is.
Yes, Liz, it did change. It used to be, we used to get the whole list, but now they give us 10 at a time. That's a protocol that Vermont State Housing changed a couple of months ago. So there is definitely probably at least 100, if not more, on that list. We are just subject to only 10 at a time. So
Doesn't that slow things down a lot because you have to wait for?
yes, it does, because we do have to wait for the applicants to respond back. And if they don't respond, it adds to that time, because then we have to ask for another 10. So it does prolong the process a little bit more than what we're used to.
Yeah.
Okay. The portfolio manager report from Jack Mahoney. At all properties, Hayes Courts project. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Just noting that the curb cuts at Ledgewood to try to calm the traffic a bit is something we want to notice, because driving up there, it's although we are not meeting in the community rooms in the past, I have noticed it's hard to see people out walking. The checklisting.
Yep, that's fine.
Wellness and Services Monthly Report. We certainly had, in that wonderful report of the consequences of COVID-19, a real sense of how critical this group is with Lorelai's work. Leading.
Well-written report. As they all are.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And it was a delight to have a poem rather than a formal report. Lucy, you are exciting to have the range of things you do. The Sash Flash. Focusing again on gratitude, choose to be grateful. I always enjoy this newsletter.
Me too.
Me too.
The Section 8, Shelter Plus Care and Transitions to Housing.
Questions?
That makes reference to the data regarding the 2021 Section 8 utility allowances. Christine, do we need to adopt those?
Yes, David, do you want to share anything, please? Do you mind sharing? Thank you. You're muted, David.
I'm back.
The
Am I
utility
back?
allowances.
You're back. Thank you.
All right. Well, welcome. Yeah, it was a little sticker shock for me this year, as in the previous couple of years when we've gotten this data from Vermont State Housing. They largely remained unchanged for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And what you see through their intense calculations of utility allowances for the state of Vermont have increased considerably. The HUD regulation is that we need to adopt new utility allowances if there is a change of 10% or more from the previous amounts. And in the comparables, in looking at the data, more than not have increased over 10%. So I'm supporting the Vermont State Housing Authority's calculations for the 2021 utility allowances and ask for your blessing that those be adopted as well. As a result, what will happen on the tenant share of rent beginning January 1 is that with these allowances being higher, that's going to result in our subsidy payments being more and the tenant share being less. So that offset then will enable them to pay a more realistic amount for their utilities. Majority of participants in our subsidized housing programs have heat and hot water included. So I would say 85–90% of all the program participants have heat and hot water included. So we're going to take a little bump on this, but not too great, I hope.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adopt the utility allowances for 2021?
So move.
Second? Donna, I think you're the one who can give a second because
Oh,
we have 3 commissioners here.
I'm sorry, I did second it. I just don't think you heard me.
Well, hearing both the motion and the second, as chair, I will, all those in favor, please say aye. And we
Aye.
will adopt these allowances. And the last part is these are the same. We did have, as I recall, a question of, no, I think we probably did it at the previous meeting where there was an issue of the change in the fair market rents, but we've already taken care of that. So I think we're all set.
We are. I just put other business on here just in case we needed to do anything else that I forgot about, but I don't think we did. So I think we covered everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do I hear a motion to both adjourn? Before we adjourn, I want to appreciate all of the work that has gone in to make this annual meeting a really spectacular one. The writing that each department head did and what they shared with us makes me so proud to be part of this organization. Thank you, Christine, for your leadership and for all of the collaboration that all of you have done together. Do we hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Applause for everything that we've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet and Christine and everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you to everyone.
Yes. Goodbye.